Hello everyone, today we're going to go over some basic Targi strategy. If you don't know how to play Targi, well firstly, what are you doing here? And secondly, you should go learn the game. There are multiple videos explaining the rules in less than 90 seconds, and it's a great medium weight 2-player game. So what should your expectations be going into a game of Targi? The game ends the round that one player finishes their tableau of 12 cards. The robber goes around the outside of the board one tile at a time, and generally the game ends somewhere in this last stage. I believe it's possible that the game can finish before the third raid, but it's pretty unlikely, I haven't seen it. And it's also possible the game can end after the last raid, but again, that's pretty rare. Knowing that the game is going to end somewhere around here will help you evaluate cards better, and also give you a good time frame of when you need to spend your resources by. What are the values of the various resources? There are 5 resources we need to worry about in Targi. Your basic goods are these 3. These are like the base value currency, so 1 good is worth 1 good. Then we have gold. 1 gold is worth roughly 3 goods. We can see that exchange rate in the trader, and it's also roughly shown in most of the cards you buy, although these 3 are not good examples. And the final currency is points. A point is worth roughly 2 goods. When we're playing Targi, we want to maximize the value we get out of each turn. We have 3 Targis we're going to place, and that will lead to 2 intersections on the board. So let's look at an example of a bad turn. We place person 1 here, person 2 here, and person 3 here. The intersections mean we get this card and this card. So in total for the turn, we get 5 goods worth of resources. That's pretty much the bare minimum you can get. The first thing you want to do on a turn is look at the center of the board and figure out which spots are worth the most amount of goods. We said earlier the coin was worth 3 goods. There's a coin right here in the middle. So if we place here and here, we've already got 5 goods worth of resources from only 3 people. But say the coin wasn't there, we also have a double resource down here, which is better value than a single resource. And then there might also be different tribe cards that give good value as well. We'll go over them a bit later. So one way of gaining value is by taking important things from the middle of the board, like coins, double resources, and good tribal cards. Then there's also the caravan spot down here. The caravan gives you 1 random good card from the draw pile. So while it can give you a single resource, it also has the upside of being able to offer double resources, coins, and even points as well. You can consider the caravan as worth roughly 1.5 goods. Let's look at a couple of ways we can lose efficiency now. The most obvious way to lose efficiency is when you have to discard goods. You have a hand limit of 10 basic goods, and if you exceed that, you have to discard. So you basically lose efficiency for every good that you discard. That's very straightforward. The same applies when you have to discard a tribal card. We want to avoid doing that at all costs. You're allowed to keep 1 in your reserve, and then after that, if you can't pay for 1, it has to be discarded. So every time you discard a tribal card, you're also costing yourself 1 good, as you could have gone somewhere else. The not so obvious ways are these little action spaces that don't give goods. Whenever you visit one, you're actually costing yourself a good because of the opportunity cost of going somewhere else. For example, if you want a good on this column, you can either go to the noble or this pepper down here. And if you go to the noble, you've cost yourself 1 pepper because you could have got a pepper from visiting this spot. That doesn't mean these spots are bad, because they may lead you to get more efficient things by visiting them. For example, Fata Morgana does cost you a salt by not visiting the salt up here, but if it allows you to get this coin, then you're actually gaining a resource, because you have -1 for the visiting the Fata Morgana, but then +2 for getting the coin. And similarly, visiting the trader does cost you a salt as well, but in order to buy most of the tribal cards, it's going to be necessary to get gold, so you probably have to visit there 2 or 3 times a game most likely. So if you're visiting the trader, try to get multiple gold from 1 visit instead of 1 at a time. If you visit and only trade for 1 gold, then it's essentially these 3 goods plus 1 salt for 1 gold, which is an exchange rate of 4 to 1. But if you're trading for 2 gold, then it becomes 3 plus 3 plus 1, which is 3.5 to 1 exchange rate. And if you're exchanging for 3 gold, then it's 10 goods for 3 gold, which is 3.33 to 1. Something I see a lot of newer players do is visit the noble a lot. For me, the noble is like a last resort. It's much more efficient to be buying cards directly from the center instead of having to reserve them and then play them, because visiting the noble costs you a pepper. A lot of this can come down to players feeling like they need to spend all their resources, but as we know from the start of the video, the game's going to end somewhere around here. It's perfectly fine to hold multiple resources in these stages. You don't need to spend everything at once. You can hold resources as long as you spend them before the end of the game. Let's have a look at some of the cards now and see how we can gain value through them. These are some cards that you should really get early if you see them. You do not have to pay anything for a raid. At base value, this is trading 5 goods for 1 point, which is a pretty bad exchange. But if you're getting it early, say here, you're avoiding this raid, and this raid. So you're essentially paying -1 good for 1 point. which is a very good exchange. Even if you get it after the first raid, you're still paying 0 goods for 1 point, which is great. After paying for a raid, receive 1 victory point. So again, at base value, this is like exchanging 4 goods for 1 point. But if you're getting it before the first raid, you're now trading 4 goods for 4 points, giving you a net positive of +4. That's even better than not paying for raids. Next turn, your opponent can only place 2 Targis. The exchange for this card is decent enough anyway, it's 4 goods for 2 points. But then also consider that you're basically costing your opponent 2 goods at a minimum, so now you're basically paying 2 goods for 2 points. After playing this card, receive either 3 goods, 1 gold, or 1 victory point. This is the same exchange, 4 goods for 2 points, but you're getting 3 goods back, so it's 1 good for 2 points. That's one of the best cards out there. Put 1 gold from the bank on this card. Well, as long as you're playing this early enough in the game, you're going to get the gold back from it, so you're basically paying 1 good for 1 point. After playing this card, for every 2 empty spaces on your table, get 1 good. If this is one of the first 2 cards in the game you're playing, you get 5 goods back, because this card is offering you negative 2 goods for 1 point. Even if your board is half full and it's like the 6th card you play, you're getting 1 point for 0 goods. Pay 1 fewer good to play additional X cards. These cards are alright. If you play 1 more Oasis in this example, it's a break-even card. If you play 2 more Oasis, you're getting good value. Each turn where you get at least 1 salt, get 1 additional salt. Pretty similar to the discounting cards, but you're much more likely to get salt than you are to get Oasis cards, so probably slightly better value. At the end of the game, if this card is to the rightmost of one of your rows, then score an additional 2 points. This is one card that's worth reserving. It costs you an extra good to play it through the Noble, but even so, if you do place it to the rightmost of one of your rows, it's 6 goods for 4 points. There are a lot of good cards out there, I won't go through all of them. Here's an example of a pretty average card. You may place your Targi on the card occupied by the robber. This costs you 4 goods for 1 point, so you'd really want to be making sure that you get at least a 2 good value from this card. I don't really see that happening. Your opponent can still block you by going opposite of the robber. It can be useful, but it's not amazing. Then basic cards like this Oasis here, 5 goods for 3 points. It's a good exchange on its own. Then also the fact that it doesn't require gold is a positive, because it means you don't have to visit the trader in order to buy it. Let's look down here at the tableaus. Another way we can gain value is by having the rows of our tableaus all matching or all different. If you have 4 camel riders here, then that's an extra 4 victory points, so each camel rider is essentially giving you an extra 1 point. That means if you've already started camel riders, then value camel riders a bit higher, as completing the full set is going to give you a lot more points. And then if the 4 cards are different, you get an additional 2 points, so each card will be worth half a point. Usually I like to go for 1 row of the same, and then 2 rows of different. While going for 4 of the same gives you more points, it makes you easier to block, and gives you less flexibility with which cards you can take. And good opponents are absolutely going to look to block you. Make sure you end the game with as few resources as possible. Your goods and coins aren't worth anything at the end of the game, so any left in your supply are wasted. As we know that the game is going to end somewhere around here, you can plan around that. Look to just have enough goods to fill your board. It can also be very handy to visit the silversmith in the last couple of turns. That gives you a direct way of trading goods for points at a pretty decent exchange rate. You can of course visit the silversmith to exchange goods for points at any time, but I tend to prefer filling my tableau, although I know a lot of top players do like using the silversmith a lot. Targi is all about maximizing the amount of goods that you can get on your turns, while minimizing the amount that your opponents can get. If you can see your opponent going for a coin, make sure you block them getting it easily and make them visit Fata Morgana to get it. The same applies for any of the high value tribal cards we talked about. Make sure you stop your opponents from getting them, and make sure if you're first player that you get them. That's pretty much all there is to Targi. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and thanks for watching.